There were once three brothers who were traveling along a lonely winding road at twilight. In time, the brothers reached a river, too treacherous to pass, too deep to wade through, and too dangerous to swim across. But being learned in the magical arts, the three brothers simply waved their wands and made a bridge, a pier across the treacherous water. Before they could cross, however, they found their path blocked by a hooded figure. It was Dad, and he felt cheated, and Dad spoke to them. He was angry that he had been cheated out of three new victims, for travelers usually drowned in the river. But Dad was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the three brothers upon their magic, and said that each had earned a prize for having been clever enough to evade him. So the oldest brother, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence, a wand that must always fill duels for its owner, a wand worthy of a wizard who had conquered Dad. So Dad crossed to an elder tree on the banks of the river, fashioned a wand from a branch that hung there, and gave it to the oldest brother. Then the second brother, who was an arrogant man, decided that he wanted to humiliate Dad even further, and he asked for the power to recall the loved ones from the grave. So Dad picked up a stone from the river bank and gave it to the second brother, and told him that the stone would have the power to bring back the dead. And finally, Dad turned to the third brother. He asked the youngest brother what he would like. The youngest brother was the humblest and also the wisest of the brothers, and he did not trust Dad. So he asked for something that would allow him to go forth from that place without being followed by Dad. And so it was, but Dad reluctantly handed over his own cloak of invisibility. Then Dad stood aside and allowed the three brothers to continue on their way, and they did so, talking with the wonder of the adventure they had had, and admiring Dad's gifts. In due course, the brothers separated, each for his own destination. The first brother traveled on for a week or more, and reaching a distant village, sought out a fellow wizard with whom he had once quarreled. Naturally, with the elder wand as his weapon, he could not fail to win the duel that followed. Leaving his enemy dead on the floor, the oldest brother proceeded to an inn, where he boasted loudly of the powerful wand he had snatched from Dad himself, and of how it made him invincible. But that very night, another wizard crept upon the oldest brother, as he lay, wine-sodden, upon his bed. The thief took the wand and slit the brother's throat for good measure, and Dad took the first brother for his own. Meanwhile, the second brother journeyed to home, where he lived alone. Here he took out the stone that had the power to recall the dead, and turned it thrice in hand. To his amazement and delight, the figure of the girl he had once hoped to marry before her untimely death appeared at once before him. Yet soon she turned sad and cold, separated from him as by a veil. Though she had returned to the mortal world, she did not truly belong there, and she suffered. Finally, driven mad with the hopeless longing, the second brother killed himself so as to join her, and so Dad took the second brother for his own. As for the third brother, they searched for many years but was never able to find him. It was only when he'd attained a great age that the youngest brother finally took off the cloak of invisibility and gave it to his son. He then greeted Dad as an old friend, who went with him gladly, departing this life as equals.